Welcome back to our series Hard Math with Kevin. I'm here with Kevin Mabe, the Chief Analytics Officer for Chorus. Kevin, we've got a pretty cool video set for today. I know we're going to actually use the Chorus platform. This is the first time that we've actually done that on one of these videos, so that's pretty cool. But why don't you walk us through what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so this is going to be an exciting one. We're going to be going through what's called a conjoint analysis, and so that will entail not only what a conjoint is, but we're going to go through the platform here and show you how to set up a conjoint question. So a conjoint analysis is essentially a way to find out respondents' implicit preferences when they choose things. So what we're going to do is an example of selecting bikes, which is near and dear to your heart, Drew. And
yes, very, very much.
Exactly. So this will be very relevant. So one way of approaching this is to ask you, Drew, what's important to you in a bike, or what kind of bike would you like to buy? The problem with that, though, is that you telling me what you might like, as opposed to being forced to choose between 2 bikes or 3 bikes, could be biased in some way, or it may miss some elements that even you may not even recognize. And so what we're going to do is use a conjoint analysis to capture the attributes that might be most important to you, and then give you essentially several bikes to choose from. And so let's actually do that. Let's start a new survey here. We're just going to call it Survey 5. That's fine.
And while you're doing this, Kevin, I should also mention that we have a number of videos that show how to use the Chorus platform itself. So if you're interested in using that, obviously, you can view those videos and see how this powerful tool works in action. But this is really cool to build out something that I'm excited to see how I do.
Yeah.
Very intrigued.
I promise we won't score it too much on the back end.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is, I had asked you beforehand to send me a few things that matter in buying a bike. So for instance, price is going to be one of them. So we're going to add price as an attribute. Composition was another. Brand was another. And then what are some other attributes that you might consider in buying a bike?
Yeah, so I would maybe add, so composition, I think we're talking about, steel, titanium, carbon fiber. Another major thing in the high-end cycling world is the componentry. Okay. There's several brands that make components, and there's now electronic shifting and hydraulic shifting, and there's all kinds of things like that. Okay. Disc brake versus disc brake is the newest trend in road cycling, but there's also rim braking. So those are all factors that enter into somebody's, essentially what the riding experience is going to be like. So
okay, the riding experience
is a big one.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's add. I know one of them was weight.
Riding experience.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah. Riding experience. All right. So this is a pretty, in a typical conjoint, you want about probably no more than 5 or 6 attributes, because it can get a bit overwhelming. So let's try with these. So I've included some levels of the attribute for contribution: steel, titanium, carbon fiber. What are maybe 3 or 4 brands that you can name off the top of your head that you that one may consider?
Sure. So Specialized is one of the bigger producers in the world. Okay. Trek is obviously another one that I'm familiar with. Giant. Those are big ones, and then I'll give you a smaller brand here as well to add in. Okay. Let's say go with Argon 18.
Okay, awesome. And components, how would we characterize components? Maybe 3 or 4 levels of like what you mean by that.
Yeah, I guess maybe the best way to do it would be electronic shifting. Okay. Or is it okay to just have 2? Yeah,
2 is fine. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say electronic shifting versus mechanical.
Okay, well then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this to shifting, and do this one for electronic and this one for mechanical. Okay. What about weight? Do you want to do like low, medium, high, or are there certain weights in your mind that if you were to see on a page that you could think that you would select from or away against?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what type of riding you do. So I'm a big climber,
Okay.
which generally means that you want a very light bike. So I'm a very tall guy too, for people that don't know. So unfortunately, my bikes are usually heavier than what the manufacturers advertise. But
Okay.
you would say something 16 pounds or less is going to be fairly light.
Okay.
16 to 18 pounds is going to be still pretty light, but a little bit heavier, and then anything over that's going to be
perfect.
On the heavier side of road riding.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. And riding experience. What are some of the levels that we can place there?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So I'd say, there's a lot of, there are aero bikes which are meant to go fast in a straight line, and then there are bikes that are meant to be really stiff for climbing, and then there are bikes that are meant to handle really well on descending, be really responsive. So I would maybe say, after all that, maybe there's, stiff and responsive, and then maybe softer and more comfortable would be the two that I would maybe just limit it to those two. Would be a better way to put it.
Okay, perfect. Let's see, stiff, responsive. Okay, it'd be hot. It would be great if I could type. Okay, so let's take a look at this so far before we add to price. Now, we've got 3 compositions, 4 brands, 2 ways of shifting, 3 weights, 2 riding experiences. And right now, that's 288 possible combinations. Now, the beautiful thing about conjoint analysis is that we do not have to ask about every single possible combination, because each one of these is chosen randomly to select, to package together a bike to show the respondent, and we'll take a look at what that actually looks like. What's great about that is because it's all independent, they're also uncorrelated, which from a statistical standpoint makes for easy analysis because it satisfies some of the fundamental assumptions regarding regression analysis. Now, the fact that we have price here makes this even 10 times more powerful. Because what's going to happen is as soon as we add price into the mix, we'll first understand how price affects the choice, of course, but we will be able to monetize each one of these attributes, because what's going to go on is you're going to be trading off a certain type of bike for another bike, and because price is going to be part of that, we will dollarize essentially each one of these attributes and figure out how much less or more would the bike have to be in order to gain or give up the fact it's mechanical shifting. For instance, how much more would you be willing to spend for electronic shifting compared to mechanical? And those are the kinds of questions we can actually answer analytically by putting price in here. So let's add 5 price levels here. So what would be like the lowest end price, and what would be the highest end price?
Yeah, and obviously I should caveat this by saying that cycling is an incredibly expensive sport.
Yeah.
Especially road riding. Although mountain biking is very expensive as well.
Yeah.
So what these numbers are just want to caveat that. But entry level bike you're probably going to be around $1,000.
Okay.
For like a nice, good entry level bike. Now,
okay.
At the very high end, you can spend $10,000 to $15,000 on a fully custom carbon fiber electronic group set bike. Obviously, that's not they don't sell a ton of those, and a lot of those are for pros. But that's the range. That's kind of the stuff.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that. Let's just do 12,000 just for fun. Okay, and I'm going to add. Let's do a $3,000 bike. Let's do a $5,000 bike. Let's add a $7,000 bike. Why not? Let's add a $9,000 bike. Okay. So right now we've got 864 possible combinations. But again, we're not concerned about this, but this just kind of lets you know just how many possible ways and possible different bikes you can build. But let me show you what this actually looks like. So we're going to load up a sample question. Hopefully it loads. And actually, let me take a look at.
Now, while that's loading, Kevin, I
yes.
wanted to ask. So, you know, and you sort of alluded to this, but right, if you're looking at a bike that's carbon fiber or has electronic shifting, those factors are going to directly impact price, right?
Correct.
You're not going to be able to find $1,000 carbon fiber bike with electronic shifting. It just doesn't work that way. So is there a way that to adjust or take that into consideration when you're doing your analysis?
Yes, it is actually. So I'm going to go into the advanced editing, for instance, and there's a section here. So first of all, you have the Conjoint Attributes here. You can say I want 2 options to choose from, so basically 2 bikes, or I just want 3 bikes. You can also allow for none of the above, basically that you would choose none of the bikes. And here's what's called a forbidden combination. So, you know, for instance, I don't want $1,000 to show with the, you know, electronic shifting. And so that's one option. I don't want $1,000 to show for carbon fiber, etc. And so you can create all of these kinds of forbidden combinations, and it just doesn't make sense that you would have a, this is actually really, really helpful to disallow certain combinations. So we just save that, and you have Corey here basically saying, yep, everything looked fine. So let me show you what this looks like, and then we'll call it quits for at least this video, because what's going to happen is you're going to actually take this survey, and we're going to get some data back.
Tremendous.
But this is what the question would look like. So a random price was selected, a random composition, a random brand, etc., etc., etc. And so by the time this question gets to you, you're forced to choose between you want this bike or this bike. Now again,
I should caveat as I'm looking at that. Obviously, you made those.
Yes.
You opened this tab before we made those forbidden comments.
Yes, exactly.
We'll probably come back with the carbon fiber and the electronic remove, but
exactly.
Very cool to see that.
Exactly, and we'll talk about the consequences of your choices here. But one of the great things here is if you were to choose, actually, I suspect that you would choose this bike. But we get 2 data points from you when you choose this bike, because we select what you did choose, but we also analyze what you didn't choose. And so based on the trade-offs of what was here compared to what was here, we can understand your choice within the broader context of what was available to choose from. And we'll see that in the data next time.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to take this, and hopefully this doesn't drive me to buy another bike. I think my wife will leave me if I buy another bike.
Exactly.
This is excellent. This is excellent.
Awesome. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.